Okay, you can go ahead.
You're all set. Thank you, Deb. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Niagara Police Services Board meeting to order. I'm Bill Steele, and I'm Chair of the Niagara Police Services Board. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it is critically important that the board continues with its governance and oversight work. Since April of 2020, the board has held its monthly meetings virtually. Today, we're joining by Zoom, and we will continue with this practice until it's safe to resume in person. I want to take a moment to thank Chief McCullough, his executive leadership team, and the uniform and civilian members of the Niagara Regional Police Service who've been working diligently and at times under difficult circumstances. I also want to thank everyone for joining us today. Niagara Region residents, members of the media, and Niagara Regional Police staff who are watching online. Thank you for your support and staying connected. With that said, let's proceed to today's agenda. Although this is taking place online, we acknowledge the land we are on as we hold this meeting is the traditional territory of First Nations peoples. In particular, we recognize and thank the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples for their stewardship of these lands over the millennia. We also recognize the contribution of Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous people, both in shaping and strengthening this region, in particular in our province and our country as a whole. I'll just go through a roll call. Just say here. Member D'Angela.
Here.
Member Eek.
Here.
Member Gale.
Here.
Member Gibson.
Present.
Member McKendrick.
Here.
Oh, Member Lawson's back. Member Lawson.
Member Lawson. Here.
Thank you. Any declaration or conflicts of interest today? Okay, thank you. We have the minutes of the public board meeting held Thursday, February 25th, 2021. I'll have movers D'Angela and Eek that the minutes of the public board meeting held Thursday, February 25th, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Any questions to those members? All in favor, please raise your hand. That's carried unanimously, Bob.
Yeah.
We'll go on to item 4, which is reports from the board chair. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome Dwayne Sprague to today's meeting. Dwayne serves as the Police Services Advisor to the Policing Inspections, Investigation, Audit, and Compliance Management Branch under the Inspectorate of Policing at the Ministry of the Solicitor General. He is attending our meeting as part of his routine visit to police boards across the province, and we certainly welcome him here today and are pleased that he could attend our meeting this morning. Dwayne will provide the board with a status update on the recent activities at the ministry following the chair and chief's comments. On March 1st and 2nd, the board participated in the Police Association of Ontario, the PAO Virtual Annual Employment Conference on Labor Relations. The conference sessions provided comprehensive updates on crucial issues from the perspectives of the associations and management, as well as discussions on emerging issues and legal developments. On March 11th, board members participated in an information session that was held by the Niagara Region Police Service and the Canadian Mental Health Association about the delivery of 2 very important services: the Mobile Crisis Rapid Response Team and Crisis Outreach and Support Team. These programs work in a partnership with the police and experienced mental health workers to respond to calls for service involving individuals in crisis who are presenting symptoms of mental illness, behavioral disturbances, or substance abuse problems. This session was extremely informative and highlighted the benefits of these programs to assist with the police response to mental health related calls for service and the positive feedback from the community. At the conclusion of the session, the board requested the chief to provide a public report or presentation at a future meeting to regional council with a goal to educate the public about these services and to continue to expand in the advocacy work for additional funding through the Ministry of Health, as well as alternate funding sources for program expansion. On March 23rd, Vice Chair Eek participated in the virtual Joint Region and Police Project Steering Committee meeting. And there was a full report on the progress made for the 1 district facility and updates on the headquarters parking lot expansion and 911 communications backup center, which is included in today's agenda listed as item 7.18. The next meeting is scheduled for April 27th, and further updates will be provided as the project advances. Vice Chair Eek, can you give us your update today?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. The Niagara Regional Police Facilities Committee, we did meet this past Tuesday, and I just want to highlight today's a most important day. This is move-in day for one district. So as of 8:30, we should have had moving vans from Bird Movers on site at 68 Church Street and starting to move facilities to our new one district facility at 198 Welland Avenue. Association with the budget, Merit Construction, we have spent $14,196. I'm all right. $14,196,147, which is 97% of the budget. Contingencies, we're at 96% of our 3% contingencies with 103 change orders. The only thing outstanding is landscaping and fencing, of course, due to the weather conditions. And we anticipate that work will be completed the week of April 19th. We did decide at our meeting this past Tuesday, a suggestion from the chief, that we continue to hold our meetings to monitor any concerns or issues that may arise from operations of the building. So we want to stay in tune and make sure that all is functioning the way it should. I'll move on to our parking lot, the large addition that went on at the headquarters. We are still waiting again, weather permitting, to put the final asphalt top coat on and then, of course, repaint the lines. Lighting has been improved, and we are going to monitor to make sure of the efficiency of that light. 911, the backup facilities in our Welland station, is now complete and actually is fully functional at this time. So we're in good stead, and that will conclude my meeting. All is well. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, David. The Canadian Association of Police Governance hosts monthly webinars as part of its educational strategy to keep police boards and police executives across Canada apprised of issues currently impacting the policing community. On March 11th, the board participated in a webinar with Ontario's first Inspector General of Policing. The next webinar will be held on April the 29th at noon, and the topic of the session is body-worn cameras and the policy considerations for police governance. Connection details will be provided to the board closer to this date. The CAPG will be holding two virtual governance summits on April the 27th and June 30th. The summit on April the 27th is entitled Governance 101, a refresher for police service boards and commissions. It will explore the essentials of police governance, including core police governance concepts and best practices regarding accountability, community and government engagement, evaluations, communication, orientation procedures, and individual roles and responsibilities. The June 30th summit will focus on policy development in police governance. Board members have been pre-registered to participate in both summits, and connection details will be provided closer to the event dates. There are no committee meetings scheduled for April, and the next board meeting will be held Thursday, April the 22nd at 9 a.m. by electronic participation through Zoom. Are there any questions with regards to the chair's report, or even to Vice Chair Eek with regards to his update? Seeing none, thank you. And now we'll go to Chief McCullough for his report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, board members. Good morning, Mr. Sprague. As was reported by Member Eek, as of today, number one district operations, which is responsible for providing frontline policing to the municipalities of St. Catharines and Thorold, has officially transitioned from 68 Church Street to 198 Welland Avenue in the city of St. Catharines. Many service members, current and retired, would share many fond memories from our time working at 68 Church Street. And while the building has certainly served us well, there's no denying it. It's well past its prime. And this new building has certainly been eagerly anticipated. I want to thank all of our service members who were involved in bringing this building to reality. to help us better serve our community for decades to come. In particular, Superintendent Richard Frayne, Inspector Sean Dowd, Inspector John Sawicki, and Mr. James Berg have been in near constant contact with regional staff to ensure that this move was as seamless as possible. I'd also want to thank the board and all of the stakeholders who have provided support in making this new facility a reality. In particular, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge former board member Ken Ganzel and current board member David Eek for the oversight role that they have played on the Facilities Steering Committee. Their support throughout this project is certainly recognized and appreciated. Once final design pieces are in place, the service will finalize a date and provide information regarding an official grand opening, ensuring, of course, that we adhere to all of the COVID restrictions of the day. Just some information regarding an SIU closure. On January 13th, 2021, uniform officers attended a call in Fort Erie in response to a request from EMS to assist with a 61-year-old male that was being transported in an ambulance. The male was being transported due to pain and lightheadedness when EMS contacted police due to his extreme agitation. Officers attempted to calm the male but were not successful. Due to the circumstances, the male was apprehended under the authority of the Mental Health Act and handcuffs were applied. En route to the hospital, the male's condition deteriorated, and upon arrival, the male was quickly placed in the care of the emergency department staff. The male was pronounced deceased by medical personnel later that day. Given the interaction with police and subsequent passing of the male, the SIU was notified and invoked their mandate to investigate. One officer was designated as a subject officer and one officer was designated as a witness officer by the SIU. On March the 10th, our service received notification from SIU Director Joseph Martino. In his closure letter, he advised that the SIU had concluded their investigation and that there were no grounds for any criminal charges against any of the involved officers. Just with regards to our 2021 homicide and attempt homicide statistics, for the reporting period of February 24th to March 23rd of this year, we did not have any homicides or attempted homicides during that time frame. Our current year-to-date totals are at 2 homicides for 2021 and no attempt murders. Comparatively, in 2020, we had 5 homicides, 3 attempt murders. In 2019, we had 7 homicides and 2 attempt murders. And in 2018, 2 homicides, 8 attempted murders. In 2017, 3 homicides and 3 attempt homicides. You may have noticed, comparing from my last month's report, that in the attempted murder statistics for 2018, that number has risen from 7 to 8 now. And unfortunately, due to a court-ordered publication ban related to that specific matter, I will provide more detail as to why this number has changed during the confidential portion of this meeting. With regards to traffic fatalities and serious motor vehicle collision statistics for the month of February, there was 1 fatal motor vehicle collision and no life-threatening injuries during the month of February. In terms of our year-to-date statistics, we have 2 fatal collisions thus far in 2021. And again, comparatively, again, still early in the year, obviously, but we had 16 for all of last year, 13 for each of 2019 and 2018, and 16 fatal collisions in 2017 and 2016. Some information related to that fatal collision. On Monday, February 1st, our officers responded to a report of a motor vehicle collision involving a child on Green Lane near Garden Gate Terrace in the town of Lincoln. Investigation determined that a 67-year-old male driver and sole occupant of a pickup truck was proceeding on Green Lane when a 4-year-old child on a toboggan entered the roadway. The pickup truck was struck the child. The child was transported to West Lincoln Memorial Hospital, where he later succumbed to his injuries. It was determined that speed was not a factor in the collision. This investigation continues by members of our collision reconstruction unit. However, it's been determined that no charges will be laid. A really tragic incident, and our thoughts remain with the family and all those involved. Some items in the news. In February, the service was contacted by Interpol in the United States regarding threatening comments that were made on YouTube. The initial investigation by Interpol led them to believe the YouTube user was from the city of St. Catharines. Local investigation was assigned to our detectives in St. Catharines, assisted by detectives in our cybercrime and technical crime units. Investigation revealed that a YouTube user had posted threats of violence in the comment section of videos during the months of January and February. On March 9th, investigators arrested a 41-year-old St. Catharines man with threats offenses. A search warrant was executed at the residence, and this investigation continues into this matter. Just some information regarding a St. Patrick's Day ride event on Wednesday, March 13th. Members of our ride spot checks in Niagara Falls and St. Catharines were in operation. Throughout the night, officers stopped approximately 650 vehicles and inquired if any of the drivers had consumed alcohol or drugs earlier in the evening. In total, 18 drivers were required to provide a sample of their breath for analysis. 2 of the drivers provided samples that resulted in an alert and subsequently had their licenses suspended for a period of 3 days. 2 other drivers were charged with operating a vehicle with a suspended driver's license, and another driver was charged for operating a vehicle with no insurance. As well, several other traffic-related tickets were issued. Again, great efforts on behalf of those officers in that initiative. And then I just want to close out on a really positive news story regarding our Niagara Regional Police Spring Food Drive. This was the first ever week-long Spring Food Drive event that we've hosted, led by members of our Community Engagement Unit that saw the service partner with 9 local food banks and 12 local grocery stores in an effort to help support the demand for food and donations all across Niagara. Where previous food drives have centered on the holiday season, the Spring Food Drive hoped to support the community given the unprecedented challenges arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. In total, 20,274 pounds of food and $13,354.30 in cash and gift cards were generously donated. In particular, Post Foods in Niagara Falls donated over 4,100 pounds of cereal products. Powell Drywall in Welland donated 630 pounds of chicken meals. A number of the grocery stores also provided donations in this food drive. The food banks that were supported by the food drive include the Salvation Army in Fort Erie, Port Cares in Port Colborne, Hope Center in Welland, Pelham Cares in Pelham, Project Share in Niagara Falls, which also serves Niagara-on-the-Lake, West Lincoln Community Care in Smithville, Community Care, which serves St. Catharines and Thorold, Grimsby Benevolent Fund in Grimsby, and the community care of West Niagara, which serves Beamsville. This event would not have been possible if it were not for the support of a number of participating grocery stores. And we'd like to offer thanks to No Frills in Fort Erie, Sobeys in Port Colborne, No Frills in Welland, Zehrs in Welland, Food Basics in Pelham, Zehrs in Niagara Falls, Food Basics on McLeod Road in Niagara Falls, Foodland in Smithville, the Superstore in St. Catharines, the No Frills on Lake Street in St. Catharines, the Superstore in Grimsby, and No Frills in Beamsville. Most importantly, I want to recognize the community of Niagara. The support and generosity from our community during these challenging times was really outstanding and simply incredible to see. So thanks to all the residents of Niagara for their generous support. And those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Chief. And on behalf of the board, we thank everyone involved, your staff, as well as thanking those members of the community that donated and everybody that allowed us to use their shopping centers and stores to take donations, and then all those community businesses that donated en masse great quantities of food. So another great day for the Niagara Regional Police. So thank you, Chief. Please pass it along on behalf of the board. Any questions to the Chief on his report? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to item 6, presentations. This is where Dwayne Sprague, who's the Police Services Advisor, Ministry of the Solicitor General, comes up. Dwayne, I'll pass it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair Steele. Good morning. Good morning, board members, chief, deputies. Good to see some familiar faces, and nice to meet some folks that I haven't seen yet. And hopefully we will be able to meet in person soon, or sooner rather than later, I guess I'll say. As you're probably aware, Chris Harepath has moved on to another position in the ministry. So I don't want to say I'm back, but it kind of reminds me of, what was it, Al Pacino in Godfather 3, who said, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. So I'm happy to be back in Zone 4. I've got Zone 5 still, back into Zone 4. So we'll see how long that lasts. I've been assured that I'm going to get some assistance sooner rather than later, but I was used to doing 4 and 5 for 3 years, so I have no problem coming back. And it's great to see you folks as well. So like I said, I hope to get out there and see you folks in person soon. What I'll do before we start is I'm going to hand this over to Paul Hebert. Paul is our director at the Ontario Police College. I know Paul's got some competing priorities this morning, so before I speak about a few things, I'll ask Paul to come online, and Paul's going to provide an update in terms of the Ontario Police College and where we're at right now with sort of current circumstances at the Ontario Police College. So Paul, if you're online, I know you are.
Ready to go. Yep.
Right on. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. I'll hand it over to Paul because I know he's got to go. Once he's done, then I'll come back in with some more information. Chair Steele.
Thanks, Dwayne. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, board members, Chief, Deputy Chief. Good morning. I was requested to provide a quick update on the COVID situation at the college. So I'll keep it very high level, but just to tell you where we are, where we're at, and where we're going with the next steps. So keeping in mind, the ladies and gentlemen, I have not briefed the deputy minister or the minister, so I can't go into a whole lot of details, but I can at least give you a bit of an insight of where we're at. So just to bring it back to the onset of the outbreak, on February 22nd, we were informed that one of our employees had contracted COVID, and right away we had to mitigate the exposure to the recruits to the employee. So right away we took some made immediate action and isolated some of the recruits, just pending the next steps. And through the next couple of days, we tested some because we have our own health center here at OPC. So we tested some of the recruits that came back positive. And as the case count went up, we took again a hard action on the February 24th. We paused training. So everybody was told to go back to their dorms and pause in rooms just to wait for the next steps. The good thing for us is that we established a great working relationship with Southwestern Public Health last year when the COVID started. So we're always in constant communication with them. So right away we contacted our partners, and we arranged for a mass testing at the college on February 25th. So through the public health, they sent a couple teams to OPC, and we tested that day 639 students, staff, and recruits. Everybody was tested. And Anybody that's negative, we're allowed to go home on the 26th and 27th, as long as they can go back home safely in an environment that can isolate themselves and to maintain the proper protocol. So we sent a lot of recruits back home. The positive recruits were held in isolation rooms away from the rest of the student population, and they were allowed to go home again. Everything we do is on recommendation and guidance from public health. So any recruit with a positive case, we're allowed to go home as long as they can go back to their own residence without impacting the community or their families and themselves too. So again, and they were issued a letter by public health to tell them what to do and go home. So we, again, a lot of them went back home also. So with that, on March 1st, we retooled our training to upfront all the academy classes. And we did virtual training for 3 weeks to all the recruits, either at OPC or from home. So virtual training, it kind of messed up the sequencing, but we're catching up to that. So when you come back to OPC, it will be mainly just on the practical skills and exam portion of the training. The important aspect I'd like to mention, of all the cases we have, none of them are the variant COVID. It's just a regular strain, which is again a positive step for us. As we stand now, ladies and gentlemen, we have 124 accumulative cases across the province related to our outbreak number. We have one is still outstanding, 123 are resolved. At OPC, we have 18 recruits that are negative and 1 positive. So that's a lone positive case that's still outstanding. And this individual should be coming off the 14-day isolation in the next few days, hopefully by the end of the weekend. So right now the outbreak is still outstanding, and we'll discuss with public health on Monday about lifting the outbreak if they're satisfied that there's no more cases associated to the outbreak at OPC. I mentioned that some recruits are still here, but there are negative results. It's because they chose to stay here, either because of their family situation, but also we did not want to impact their northern and remote communities. So again, we're keeping hosting the recruits that can't go home because of different color zones or from northern areas. So that's where we're at now. Going forward, once recruits left, we did an enhanced cleaning of all the dormitories and rooms, make sure we're ready to start the training once we get back. And right now we're discussing the resumption of training, and we're proposing, we'll brief the minister hopefully early next week about a return date. But as I mentioned, once we get back here, it'll be mostly on the practical skills. We're exploring and implementing a lot of more mitigation strategies and processes in place just to make sure we don't go back to another outbreak. And we're confident that we'll be able to complete the training as soon as we get back to OPC. And we'll have, again, more measures in place to help us out. So again, all through the outbreak so far, we've been working well with public health. And in discussing public health, they told us right away, usually it's about a month before an outbreak is taken care of. So we're almost there now. So again, we're confident we can resume training as soon as we get approval from the minister. As I mentioned, I'll be briefing the deputy and the minister soon. Throughout the last few weeks, we kept our policing partners informed through different avenues, through OACP or through a advisory group that we have here, and we'll continue to do that also. So again, without going too much details, what we're looking at again, pending approval, looking at vaccination of all the recruits and staff. Again, that's supported by public health. We're looking at putting measures as rapid testing and a couple more things. But again, this is just in the works right now, but we'll wait for the proper approval, and then we'll share that with all the police chiefs. And of course, there'll be a communication strategy to the recruits to make sure they're prepared to come back with some steps to take before they come back here. So again, just to make sure we do that. I should mention when they left, when the recruits left on 26th and 27th, again, it was all by cohorts. Again, nobody was mixed up with any other cohorts. We have done this in the strategic approach. When they come back, it'll be the same way. It'll be a staggered approach coming back over 2 days. And there'll be, again, a system to come back through to make sure everybody's complying with the protocol we have in place. At this point, I'll stop at this point. And Chair, if you have any questions, I can address as much as I can. But thank you for allowing me to come and present to you this morning.
Great. Thank you, Director Hebert. Any questions from members? Seeing none, again, thank you. And yeah, can't wait to for you guys to get right back into it and keep everybody healthy. So we appreciate everything you're doing down at the college.
Totally agree. And we're trying to not to impact the May intake. So again, we're working through the next intake as we are now. So, but thank you for your time. Thanks, Dwayne. I'll leave for my next meeting. Thank you so much. Good.
Thank you. Dwayne, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Chair. I guess I'm going to say my apologies right off the bat to those of you who have heard some of this. It may not be new news to those of you that haven't. This is good. This is news, obviously. I've said in the past, and I apologize for this, but during the last year or two, I'm not sure whether I felt like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day or I'm in an episode of The Twilight Zone, and I'm probably dating myself by saying that. But it's been interesting times, to say the least. So I'm going to touch on a few things. Number one is the Community Safety and Policing Act. You folks are aware of that. That's been going on for a while. With respect to the Community Safety and Policing Act, currently we've been working on between 50 and 70 matters for regulation that basically need to be developed to bring the act into force. So there's been an awful lot of work that the ministry and all the stakeholders have been at the table, the OACP, the OAPSB, AMO. There's a good dozen stakeholders that have been at the table to work on these regulations. There are the engagement tables and the subject matter expert tables. So there's just been a lot of work, and there still is a lot of work to be done between now and what I'm going to say is we've been told early 2022. So we're hoping to develop maybe not all of the regulations, but a large majority that need to be developed before the act comes into force. And as you know, you're probably aware, there was a temporary pause on the engagement until October 2020. So that really threw a wrinkle into the time frame for us due to the pandemic, obviously. We've continued to host virtual meetings with all the stakeholders to address the regulation matters and to ensure the act is proclaimed. We're saying early 2022. I don't think, and we had a date before January the 1st. We're just saying now early 2022. We're hoping it's mid-January, we're hoping it's the end of January. We're not sure yet. Like I said, there's just an awful lot of work to do in that area. So we'll see, and it's coming along. So for now, good or bad, what I say to all boards and the services is you still live under the current Police Services Act no matter what until the CSPA is proclaimed into force early next year. Everybody still remains under the PSA. That's the first thing. Second thing I'm going to talk about a little bit is the duties of the Inspector General. You may have heard about this, and I'm going to say it to Deb. You can probably get this from Deb. Deb, there was an all chiefs ACM that was released in October the 2nd, 2020. It's ACM 20-0147. And it's all about the Inspectorate of Policing, the Inspector General of Policing. It's a new area under the ministry. We've actually been sort of dragged and dropped on the org chart, the advisors under the Inspectorate of Policing as of February the 1st this year. And the duties of the Inspectorate of Policing are set out in the new act. So if you want some high-level details, take a look at the all chiefs that was sent out in October. That'll give you the high-level details. If you really want to drill down in terms of what the Inspectorate of Policing is all about, and it will be taken over and doing some of the same things that we've done for years. Advisory, monitoring work, inspections, investigations is going to be a bit of a new arm. So there's going to be a range of functions, including, like I mentioned, inspections, monitoring, and advisory services to policing, community safety partners. While you may see correspondence from the ministry referencing the Inspector of Policing, as of right now, as I said, the Inspectorate is supporting the existing responsibilities set out in Section 3 of the Police Services Act, and not its future mandate under the Community Safety and Policing Act. So right now, for all intents and purposes, because the Inspectorate of Policing falls under the CSPA, there's really no powers there yet to do what we're going to be doing until the CSPA is proclaimed. So right now, our powers and responsibilities come from the PSA. But it's not a bad thing to do is take a look at that all chiefs memo that came out in October 2nd last year. And also you can go into the online or the e-version of e-laws and go into the CSPA, and it's actually in part 7. So take a look at part 7 if you really want to drill down into that. But it's going to change things in the future. And I'm going to say to the board too, if you ever want a separate presentation by our new Inspector General and Deputy Inspector General. They're more than willing to come out. Our Inspector General is Devon Clunas. Devon is former chief, retired obviously from the Winnipeg Police Service, and Ken Wetherill, former deputy chief in Hamilton as well as Barrie. So they came on board. I should say Devon came on board last October. Ken came on board after that, and we're just getting ramped up as we speak. There's a lot of work to get people on board. You may have seen, as a matter of fact, there were 5 police service advisor positions posted that closed March 17th. And this is public knowledge. There were 249 applications for those 5 positions. So there's quite a lot of interest in that. And that's just part of our ramping up to get staff in place as we build the Inspectorate of Policing. But it's a very good presentation. If you ever want Devon and Ken come out and do a presentation for the board separately, they've been reaching out to the chiefs and the boards around the province, and they're more than willing to do that. So feel free to either contact me and I'll let them know, or you can contact Devon and Ken as well. I'm sure you folks are on sort of plan with this. The deadline for municipalities to prepare and adopt the community safety and well-being plans, it was extended to July 1st this year. So I'm not sure whether you've got it done, but either way, you have until July 1st of 2021 to get that community safety and well-being plan finished. The Police Services Act requires every municipality in Ontario to prepare and adopt these community safety and well-being plans. And so far, from what I've seen around the province, I can only really speak right now for Zone 5. They're really being done ahead of time. So I'm sure you folks are in the same boat, and you don't need to update me on that, but just to let you know. A couple other items here I'll mention. This will be interest to the board as well as the chief and the senior command. In September of last year, the ministry hired an independent consultant to review the delivery of court security and prisoner transportation in Ontario, including the design of the ministry's court security and prisoner transportation grant program, actually. And the consultant company was a company by the name of GGI that actually did this. The consultants basically scheduled to deliver a final report to the ministry outlining their findings and recommendations roughly at the end of this month. It was going to be roughly the end of February, early March, but it's looking sometime the end of this month. They should be finished and have their findings and recommendations delivered to the ministry, we're hoping. So we'll continue to provide updates on any program changes going forward. And hopefully as soon as we hear the reports landed, you folks will hear soon after as well. So that's an interesting area. You may want to just keep an eye on that and keep an eye on it going forward. And as soon as I have any information for sure, I'll pass it along. You folks may even hear before I do, but that's one area to keep an eye on. In terms of pandemic specific supports, the ministry continues to support the coordination basic communications to police services regarding updates to public health measures. And I really have to throw a large thank you to the chief and the deputies and the board as well for, I know that the ministry's inundated you folks with list of all chiefs since this time last year, since mid-March, let's say, well over 100. I have them all in a separate folder, and trust me, we've had an awful lot of all chiefs go out as a result, understandably so, as a result of this pandemic. But thanks very much to the chiefs, the deputies, and the boards. This number of requests and surveys and phone calls I know that I did in Zone 5, and I'm sure Chris did as well in Zone 4. It's been nonstop, and it's just something we've had to do. And I certainly never mean to bother anybody at night or on weekends. So I try to refrain from that. So once again, thanks for all the work on the all chiefs that go out. It's been a lot for everybody. And the ministry has also been continuing to work directly with police services to support the provision of personal protective equipment, to supplement existing procurement efforts and assist in addressing urgent shortages. We're still involved in that. If that ever comes up, depending on how you folks are in terms of your procurement with respect to PPEs, please reach out, have your procurement person reach out, let me know. We're still involved in that. So that's not going to end anytime soon. If there's any assistance we can provide there, have your procurement person reach out to me. So that's going to continue on. For how long, I'm not sure, but that's definitely out there as well. One last sort of standing item I always seem to mention at zone meetings and board meetings is training orientation for police services board members, especially any of the new members. I always encourage all board members to attend PSB training orientation. Now, whether it's through the OAPSB modules on the OAPSB website, which I encourage you to do, or whether it's through myself. I've done a number of training sessions, a lot of them since last September for some reason. I actually did one in person in Walkerton, which was kind of interesting, but we all stayed socially, distance and everything else. I wasn't wearing a mask during the session, but it worked out. Everybody was quite a distance away from me in a large community center. I will go in person during the day, at nights, weekends, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's the board. I'm happy to do that. I just basically say that I'm available to provide training members on their roles, responsibilities with respect to the Police Services Act and Police Services Board governance. So I encourage you, any of the board members who haven't done the OAPSB online modules, please do that as maybe a first step. And if you want, I can either do it virtually or we can work something out in person. I leave that up to the boards. I don't force myself upon the boards at all to come in person. Matter of fact, I went to my first in-person board meeting a couple of weeks ago in Brantford, which worked out well, but it's kind of nice to get away from the whole virtual world we've all been living in. So in a nutshell, that's probably it for the most part. If there's any questions, I'm open to questions. And if not, that's pretty well it, high level wrap up from the ministry. And I'll try to keep you folks posted. I probably will be altering board meetings because the same day that you folks meet, the Halton Police Services Board meets. So I probably will attend next month, the Halton board. So hopefully you see me in May. So thanks, board chair, and I'm open to any questions.
Great. Thanks, Dwayne. We really appreciate it. Welcome back. Questions for Dwayne from the board? Seeing none, just a couple things here. Chief, update on the on where we are with the Niagara region on the report that has to come forward for July for the community well-being.
Through you, Chair. So I am the co-chair along with the acting CAO, Ron Tripp, for putting together the community safety and well-being plan, working with all of the numerous stakeholders. There's been a lot of public consultation that has gone on to this point in time. It's a matter of putting all of those, that consultation together into sort of a structured report and recommendations. Hope to have that done by June and into council for approval. So it's the work is well underway, and hats off to, in particular, Michelle Johnston and Sandy Dupuis at the region, who have done incredible amount of work, and I know they've reached out to the board as well for their input. So it's well underway, and we should be able to meet the required timeline.
Good. Thank you, Chief. And the second thing is that I have is, Deb, if you want to work with the chief and Dwayne at some point between now and the fall, I think it'd be a good idea to have the Inspector General or his deputy or somebody from their office to give us a presentation. I think that'd be a good idea, since it is. I know we've seen him on the webinar we had a month ago, but just to bring him into our association and give us a little talk, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll make those arrangements.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anything further to Dwayne? Seeing none, I have members Gale and Gibson that the presentation be received. All those in favor, raise a hand. That's carried unanimously, Bob. Next is consent items. We have items 7.1 through to 7.21. I'll have members Lawson and McKendrick move this, that the information be received. And are there questions on any of these consent items? Member Eek, I'll start with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to just briefly highlight 7.20 and 7.21, which are resolutions both from the city of Thorold and Welland that support a letter that was written co-jointly between you, Mr. Chair, and our regional police chief, the subject being medical cannabis growing operations and the public safety concerns. And I raise it under this consent item, really to highlight this item further to our guest today, to Dwayne Sprague, and his association, of course, with the Solicitor General, Sylvia Jones. So I'm hoping that this will move forward to gain continued support. Certainly since the cannabis grow operations have come into being, many concerns and issues, both from policing, both from the public, have arisen, and it seems they continue to fall on deaf ears. I don't think we see much movement to specific issues that have been highlighted. So I won't go into the letter that was sent, as I said, by the chair and our chief to Minister Haydu, the Minister of Health. But I know, Mr. Sprague, hopefully you'll follow up with this letter and give us the Niagara region the support that we need to deal with the cannabis operation. So, Mr. Chair, that's all I have to say on that subject. Thank you.
Thanks, David. And we actually have gotten some action out of the Minister of Health. They will be going across Canada and asking municipalities for input on changes to the medical marijuana health licensing. As everybody knows, and the chief, I think in his words, it's kind of the Wild West out there. Right now in Port Colborne, we're having huge issues with these popping up, and they don't seem to follow any of our planning protocols, and they start growing before they're given our permission under planning. But you know, I mean, it's unfortunate that the gate's been left open and the cows have escaped. Now they want to rein it back in. It's too bad they didn't think about this when the federal government brought this out. However, that being said, they are coming out asking for our information. So hopefully they will put teeth into their legislation to allow municipalities to have more control and making sure that these just don't pop up anywhere within our community in either the wrong zoned areas under our Planning Act or any of the areas in our agricultural where they don't fit any of the setbacks. So, you know, there is maybe some light at the end of the tunnel, but I think, as you've mentioned, Member Eek, with regards to our letters and the ones we've received from other municipalities, is the fact that we have gained their attention. And I think this is across Canada. And I don't know if the chief has anything to add with regards to the chiefs of police on this issue. But we do need the teeth as municipalities and a local police services board and police service in order to rein all this in. So, Chief, is there anything to add?
The only point that I would add is that this is something that's certainly not unique to Niagara, although given the fact that we do have a lot of agricultural land in the area, and we have a climate that allows for grow operations to flourish in our region, we are certainly seeing a huge issue of these grow operations within our region, York region as well, experiencing similar concerns, all across the province. So it's one that we're optimistic that the federal government will see fit to make legislative changes that really addresses a number of loopholes and safety concerns that are negatively impacting our communities.
Great, thank you, Chief. And Dwayne, I know it's not in the province's bailiwick, but is this something that you guys are discussing at your end?
Well, because it is a federal issue, I'm not sure how much discussion, to be honest with you, Chair Steele, is going on, but I can certainly look into it.
Yeah, just that, I mean, like when Chief McCullough and I brought this forward with regards to going out to our municipalities, the whole idea is to get the attention of the federal government. I mean, when this all came in, I mean, Norfolk in our area, Norfolk is having probably the biggest problem to date with regards to these medical grow ops. And they just literally walk in, set up, and they really don't care about the rules. And, you know, and there is no teeth. The feds have given us no teeth at all in their legislation. unlike the retail grow ops where, you know, they've got the fencing and the lighting and the site plan controls and the odors and all that stuff, there is teeth there. But on this side, there's nothing. It's wide open. So if you take that back and any information you can get it to either Deb or the chief. The board would really appreciate that.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Any further questions on those two items from members? Okay. Any other questions on any of the other items from members? Oh, sorry. I had member Gibson. I apologize.
Well, thank you, Chair, and through you. Yeah, just to reiterate on the marijuana thing there, it's just can't be overstated enough about how unregulated it is out there, and it's really bad. So we're hear complaints about it all the time. I'd like to draw attention to 7.14, please. Theft of autos.
Yep, go ahead.
So when I look at the chart there, I see in 2020, 805 incidents of theft of cars, vehicles, with a clearance rate of 90 of them, so which is about an 11% clearance rate. The obvious question that the public would have here, or anybody looking at this, is where are the other 715 cars or vehicles that have been stolen? So it makes me wonder, you know, and just for the public here, are we victims of organized crime, stealing high-end cars, going to other countries, which, you know, we hear about in the media, that sort of thing. So I'd just like a little bit of a, you know, a frame up here on some of the details on this, because there is 715 thefts outstanding. I'm just curious where that is. Just the public would like to have that more explained, I think.
Thank you, Member Gibson. Chief McCullough.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, obviously, organized crime is very much involved in these types of scenarios, and oftentimes it's the high-end vehicles, pickup trucks, etc., that are being targeted. Very difficult and challenging investigations. You probably recall from your time in policing, and oftentimes involves multiple jurisdictions, and we continue to work with Criminal Intelligence Services of Ontario, collaborate with the OPP, RCMP, and of course Canada Border Services Agency as well, to try and infiltrate and address this type of crime that's occurring. You know, I don't have any more specific details with regards to the other 700 investigations or thefts that have occurred, but I can tell you that all leads are pursued, and if we have information as to that will assist in clearing an investigation, can assure the public that we will pursue those leads.
Member Gibson.
Yeah, it's a consistent issue here, running at about the same clearance rate. So that's a lot of vehicles outstanding, and usually there's, you know, recovery and back roads, side roads, that sort of thing. So it just intrigues me. I'm curious where, you know, that's a lot of cars going disappearing every year, vehicles, trucks, whatever. So obviously we're on it. We're working with these other agencies to enhance our ability to detect if they're, you know, getting loaded onto containers and onto a ship and gone, or, you know, that sort of thing. So it's a big problem, but just as long as we're on it, obviously, Chief, you're well informed on it and working on it. So that's good. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Member Gale.
Thank you. I have a further question on that one. Then I have a number of other ones on 7.14 still. Chief, through you, Chair, to the Chief. 4 years ago when I was Chair, we had a rash of vehicles being stolen, and I won't say the names of the hotels, but we met hotel owners in Niagara Falls, one that was a major spot that they could steal a vehicle, I think, in about 18 seconds. The casino, malls around, and they were the major spots that vehicles were stolen. Now I see the elevated levels of vehicles that have been stolen, yet none of these places were open last year, were they were open very minimal. So I'm wondering, where are these being stolen? And do we have their own car theft epidemic, for lack of better words? Or am I reading into this wrong, Chief? Because the casino hasn't been open for a year, and this one hotel that I know of that I met the owners there with I think one of the deputies 4 years ago was hasn't been open for a year.
Chief?
I don't have specifics as to where the vehicles are being stolen from. I mean, you're quite right. A lot of the hotels have been closed throughout the year. Perhaps, I don't know if Deputy Flynn is, he's put his hand up, so I'll turn it over to Deputy Flynn. He can provide some further details.
Deputy?
Thanks, Chief, and through you, Chair. Just for the members' awareness, I mean, I guess the answer with respect to organized crime, yes, that is a part of it. That's not all of it. It happens in a lot of different ways, but it's probably a little bit misleading in the statistics in terms of total cleared. That doesn't mean total recovered, and I would suggest that the vast majority of vehicles are actually recovered. I mean, we always have known that we have vehicles stolen, and in some cases it's joyrides. In some cases, it's for people to get from one place to another. Those statistics can be very hard to capture, especially as the chief mentioned. We talk about a lot of cross-border recoveries and recoveries that happen somewhere else, and it's the vehicle itself is removed from the CPIC system, the national CPIC system, by another organization once it's recovered. So we may not always be able to be very accurate on the percentage that have been recovered. So the fact that you see 92 cleared there, typically what we're seeing is cleared by charge cases that are closed, but not necessarily just recoveries. I don't believe, and I can look into it further. I'm not sure we can gather the statistics entirely ourselves, but I don't believe that that's outstanding vehicles. Thank you.
Member Gale?
So that somewhat answers Kevin's question, but not mine. I see 805 vehicles were actual incidents in 2020, and I know the 4 major hotspots that I visited have been shut down. So I don't need an answer right now. And if you want to put it into confidential in another meeting, Chief, or I defer to your wisdom on this, but by way of direction, Chair, can I get a report, or can the board get a report just on where the hotspots are of these vehicles being stolen, and what can we do about it? Because if it's 805 this year, and last year was 801, the 829 before, I think we got a serious problem, or I'm reading it wrong.
Deputy Chief?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and through you for Member Gale. I can certainly try and get a little bit more statistically or at least reference where our hotspots are. I would suggest to you, though, that when those hotels are open, the reason that vehicles are being stolen from them is because it's an easy place for somebody to go and look through 300 or 400 vehicles and decide which ones they want. And that's really just, it's just an easy mark is what it is. And we've tried to work with the hotels in the past, and you're aware of that in terms of having security, in terms of having gates. That's not going to deter everybody, but it's one of the ways to do it. In this instance, I would suggest that people have just gone to different areas, whether it's driveways or other places that still may have vehicles around, and that's the method they've been using. But we'll dig in a little bit further and just give an indication by city or by locations if we do have hotspots. I'm certainly able to do that.
Thank you for that.
Member Gale?
Chair, do you want me to move on to the next item?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry if you hear a bunch of clocks in here. We got our grandfather clock fixed too. So I have cuckoo clocks and grandfather clocks. Because the internet in my dining room is better, I'm here. So on the hour, I can't hear you people. So my next one is 7.5, the child porn report, through you to the chief. And this caused me concern, but I hope the answer is the way I'm hoping it. Chief, in the report, it spiked in 2002 because there was a backup of complaints, cases, 59 cases backlogged. I'm hoping you're going to tell me that we have nothing else backlogged on this, because my response, if there is some backlogged, is this is so serious, we have to get more officers by way of region or yourself. But tell me there's nothing backlogged, please, Chief.
Chief?
I'm going to turn to Deputy Flynn. I'm not sure if he's got any additional information on that. I can assist.
Deputy Chief?
Thanks, Chief, and through you, Chair. I suspect that Member Gale's asking with respect to reported incidents and the growing number there. I can ask Superintendent Ash to add anything on when I'm finished, but what we've always heard about with respect to child pornography and internet luring is that there's no gates up around Niagara with respect to the internet. There's no it's not always just going to be from our area. The reality is that it's our investigators continue to raise their abilities around detecting incidents of child pornography and internet luring. And a lot of those cases may either be within or outside of our region. I agree with you. It's incredibly frustrating, and it's an incredibly negative sign of our times in some ways. But I would suggest, not unlike some other issues that we experience in law enforcement, if we had more investigators, I would suggest that we would just end up finding more and more incidents, and that's so unfortunate. But I believe it's just part of our growing ability to detect. And in some cases, I guess on a positive note, our relationships that we've set up with the leadership of the OPP in this province and across the country to collaborate with other organizations, because we know we need to in terms of our abilities to solve some of these crimes. And I'll just leave it to Brian if he has any extra information.
Hey, Mr. Ash.
Yep, thanks, Deputy. The Deputy has framed it quite accurately. It is, in fact, a backlog of how the investigations come to us, because they are actually can be worldwide, nationally. And as you'll see in that report, we had some additional funding through the strategy, which allowed us to temporarily increase with one more investigator. And that continues into this year. And so a real strong effort to getting to those reports that came to us late, and some significant success. I don't believe we have nearly the backlog that is referenced in the beginning of this report. Thank you.
Okay, Member Gale.
So thank you for that, Brian and Brett. So therefore, throwing another officer into the mix here, making it a fourth officer, won't solve this in any great way. We're doing a great job the way we are right now, and that's the way I read into it. Is that correct, Brett?
I would say that our investigators are doing an amazing job. I think as long as Brian referenced, that we can continue to find funding when we can, we will certainly look to bring in other members who have some of those skills, even at a basic level, to help and to help us keep up.
Okay, so the report says 202, but that's because of a backlog. So we can't just say in 2020 we had a great rash because some were backlogged from before. Thank you for that. Chief, do you want me to move on to my next question, or would anybody else have questions on this one?
I'm just going to go to Member Lawson. Did you have a question on this certain item, Member Lawson, or a different one?
Yes, no, this one.
Okay, go ahead.
So through you, Chair, to the Chief, I guess a couple of things. Maybe the increase could be also due to awareness, where people are actually reporting it, for example. And I guess the other question that I have regarding this, is there any police programs about educating our youth and our parents perhaps regarding internet safety? What programs are out there right now, and how is that being addressed?
Chief?
Through you, Chair, thanks. And the reality is right now as well, with the prevalence of technology and the ability for people to share this really distasteful material across the internet is it really is difficult and really exploding type of crime, unfortunately. Our school resource officers play a big role in connecting with youth in our community to try and inform them of these types of crimes that are occurring, and to make them aware of strategies that are used to try and lure youth into being victims of this heinous type of crime. So that's certainly one area. I don't know if Deputy Flynn, if you can provide any further details on that.
Absolutely, Chief. Member Lawson, we can send you a link as well. I'm not sure if the organization is actually referenced in this report, just because I have a different screen open. But the Canadian Centre for Child Protection is an organization that we have partnered with, again, through our alliances with the OPP and other organizations. And some of the material that the Chief talked about in terms of our school resource officers, when they can be in the schools and when we can interact. My apologies, I'm losing my earbuds here. They have some fairly extensive material with respect to, and I'm just looking at their resource, keeping kids safe, online safety, taking action. They do have some excellent resources that we have relied on and continue to rely on with respect to educating the public and educating our children and the schools and their families.
Okay, thank you. Member Lawson?
That's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Member Gale?
Thank you. So now I move to item 7.18 on the new facility in St. Catharines, please. And I don't know, it would be fair if I had somebody from the region here to answer, and this might be a regional question. But my first comment on this is I want to compliment Dave Eek for putting his heart into this project like Ken did before, and that you've done a good job on this, Dave, and keeping us informed in that. But you might have to answer this question for me, Dave. I'm not sure. And it'll be a bit of delay in your answer, but regardless, in the report, it says the contingency is 98%, which causes me concern, but I know that we use contingencies, and the contingency is 3%. The project is 14.5 million, so say the contingency is about $450,000. We are over, if you want to say that, but the contingency is fair play. And it also says 97% of the work is completed. So my question to you, Dave, or anybody that wants to answer me here, is 97% of the work invoiced? Or am I worried that we're going to see invoices for a remaining 20% and it's going to go through the roof?
Member Eek?
From my perspective, at our meeting this past Tuesday, all bills are pretty well in. And what you're seeing that we're within budget is a true figure based on the reporting that has been received from the region. So I'm confident that we're not getting any surprises at the conclusion of this. And perhaps I'll turn it over for some comments from the chief and his members that also played a major role in this build. Chief.
Chief.
Thanks. And just with regards to our last steering committee meeting, there was some commentary from the project manager, Nicole Menard, who is the author of this report, about COVID costs, some additional costs that have been incurred by the contractor as a result of COVID, PPE, all of those additional measures that had to be put in place. May be an additional cost, but again, trending and tracking on budget at this point in time.
So thank you for that. Both of you guys are fiscally responsible in my mind, and you know where I'm getting at here. I just don't want to see horror stories come out like I've seen in other projects in government where we got invoices like 97% completed might mean 80% billed, and the last 20% still has to come in. But thank you. You know my concerns there. Chair, I'm done with my questions. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Member Gale. Any further questions from members? Okay. Oh, sorry, Member McKendrick.
Sorry, thank you. Bringing our attention to 7.4. I just wanted to bring attention to the reduction in numbers, which is around child abuse and neglect from January 1st to December 31st, 2020. And just bringing attention that the numbers decreased, but that's not necessarily a positive piece. So really a recognition and a thank you to our service for recognizing that a reduction in numbers is not necessarily a positive sign, and being proactive and partnering with other agencies to try and get ahead of that, to raise the awareness within, and I believe the report outlines a partnership with Family and Children's Services, the boards of education, as well as other police services for social media campaigns to raise awareness. So just thank you for that proactivity and recognizing that the pandemic has actually put some of our most vulnerable individuals in even more vulnerable situations, and trying to increase that awareness so that it is being reported, as well as bringing to the public's attention that it's also within us to be sensitive to the vulnerability of some of our community members, and bringing that to the attention of police, of family children services, and other agencies that can intervene at this time. So just thank you for the proactivity and the partnerships to address that.
Great, thank you. Seeing no further questions, I do have one question, Chief, through to you under item 7.2, the quarterly report for overtime. And I know COVID may have had a hand in this. However, our numbers from 2019 to 2020 did reduce, and that's one thing that we talked about with regional council when we put together our 40 new officer hiring, where we did it in 2 stages. But are you and your staff seeing a downward trend based on our new recruits coming on board with our, aside from the COVID issue?
Through you, Chair. There's no question the COVID situation has had a significant impact, and with self-isolating and we've had 18 members, I think, to date, plus our recruits who have tested positive, but that doesn't really take into consideration all of the contact that our members have had with potentially people who are COVID positive out in the community, and all of the people that they subsequently have contact with in the workplace. So there's no question it's had a significant impact on resources, which has had a negative impact on overtime in order for us to achieve minimum staffing requirements. We haven't really seen the full impact of our 40 officers at this point in time. A lot of, actually, a number of them are the group that was impacted at the Ontario Police College. So they're due back in and around May, and we'll have them hit the roads. And then we have we're hopeful for another, I think, 15 officers to go to the police college at the May intake to replace officers who are retiring. So it is we're almost there, and we should start to reap the benefits of those additional officers probably more correctly by 3rd quarter, 4th quarter of this year.
Okay, great. Just one more question. With regards to our overtime, where I know within the city of Port Colborne, again, due to COVID, we had hired a number of officers to look after an area of concern in the city. So the overtime numbers that are here would include those, although the city of Port Colborne would be paying for that because we did pay for it. But that's all still part of this overtime numbers. Is that correct?
No, I believe those would be captured in a separate area, which are special duties.
Okay.
So that this is specifically overtime, and that's again in a separate area.
Okay, good. Thank you. Further questions? Member D'Angelo.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to ask a couple questions regarding 7.16, the Short Hills Provincial Park costs associated with the deer hunt. I see the costs are escalating, and it's as you read the report, it's due to more days of that are being allowed for the harvesting. Because the costs are now starting to climb up, is there any opportunity, because it's at a provincial park, to address these costs with the provincial government?
Chief?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So with regards to the costs that are incurring inside the park and the resources that are required for inside the park, which is not our jurisdiction, those are borne by the province, and whether it's through the ministry or through the OPP. I think there would be an argument that would be raised by the province that because of the role that we're performing is occurring actually within our jurisdiction, although albeit related to what's going on in the park. I think there would be an argument raised that it falls within our jurisdiction. It's certainly something that we could reach out and address in correspondence to the province, but I'm at the board's disposal there.
Member D'Angelo.
Well, I'll leave it at the chief's discretion to see what he can do, working with the provincial government and also the provincial police, understanding that it is part of our jurisdiction. So I'll leave it in your hands. It's just that the costs keep escalating. And Chair, you mentioned about overtime, and there was quite a bit. There's 131 hours of overtime just in the last time this happened. So that's why I just brought it up as an opportunity at some point to have some discussion further. But again, I'll leave it at the discretion of the chief to see where he can potentially fit that in the future. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any further questions or comments on any of these? Okay, seeing none, it is duly moved and seconded, and this is to receive. All those in favor, raise a hand. That's carried. Item number 8, new business. We have item 8.1, the Ministry of Solicitor General, 2021 COVID-19 relief funding for municipalities, moved by members Eek and member Gale. Any questions on that? Seeing none, that this information be received, and further that the service consult with the Niagara region to identify critical COVID-19 related operating pressures for policing that can be addressed through this funding initiative for 2021. Seeing no questions, all in favor, raise a hand. That's carried. 8.2 is annual report missing persons, January 1st to December 31st, 2020. Moved by members Gibson and Lawson that the information be received. Further, the report be provided to the Ministry of the Solicitor General, posted on the Niagara Regional Police Service website, pursuant to Section 8 of the Missing Persons Act 2018. Questions on this one? All in favor, please raise a hand. That's carried. 8.3, Police Services Board Bylaw 389-2021, Citizen Rewards, moved by members McKendrick and D'Angela, that the board adopt bylaw number 389-2021 as appended to the report and authorize the board chair and executive director to execute the required documentation. Questions on this one? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. 8.4, special fund request, the OAP SB Conference Sponsorship 2021, moved by members Eek and member Lawson, that the board authorize a donation of the amount of $1,000 from the special fund to the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards in support of its 2021 annual spring conference and annual general meeting. Any questions on this one? All in favor, please raise your hand. That's carried. 9, other new business. Does any member have new business? There are no in-camera reports at this time. I will adjourn this portion of the meeting and we'll meet in 10 minutes. Deb, is that fine? On to the next meeting?
Yes, thank you, Chair. 10 minutes. We'll meet in closed session.
Okay, 10 minutes. We'll meet in closed session. Thank you to the members of the public, media, and everyone for joining us. And again, Dwayne, welcome back. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.